shift in the US approach towards the war in Ukraine and its relations with the Kremlin has prompted Europe to initiate a grand rearmament plan aimed at boosting the security of the whole bloc. Poland, which borders Russia and Belarus, is already modernizing its army and as it prepares for mass drills for all the willing men this year, it is also thinking about acquiring a nuclear weapon in the future. And to talk about the Polish army and the country's security, we're joined by Joshua Burgin, coordinator of the New Security Leaders Program at the Warsaw Security Forum. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for joining us, Joshua. So, on Friday, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated that Poland would be safer if it had nuclear weapons at its disposal, and that Warsaw will be looking into that avenue in the future. So, a very similar statement has been already expressed by Ukraine's ambassador to the UK and former Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny. Now, does it mean that soon many European states will try to obtain a nuclear bomb on their own, and what could it lead to?
Well, first let me say my opinions here are my own. In watching sort of global history, it's been clear that those states who don't have nuclear armaments have relied on others to guarantee their security. In a less sort of clear environment at the moment, many are looking to have those self-assurances internally. To your point around Poland, I mean, we've also noted a dialogue with France. I mean, clearly France could be the protectorate with the nuclear umbrella, or indeed Poland could end up arming itself. I think it's very early to speculate. I think there's a lot of political posturing taking place on all sides of the Atlantic and beyond. And what's going to become reality is at least 18 months to 3 years away before we have any clear indication of what the current conversations are going to turn into in terms of reality. But it is clear that Europe is waking up, that they need to begin expending their own funds on defense and security, in addition to that of the US.
But would it be possible for Paris just to loan some of its nuclear arsenal to Poland?
I mean, these discussions would be incredibly secretive, and what happens is yet to be seen. My suspicion is that that Paris simply couldn't loan them, and if they did, it would be incredibly secret and non-disclosed. The notion of sort of an arrangement for building or an arrangement for sort of technology sharing, that's possible. And if anyone in Europe has earned the right and sort of is the front lines at this point, it is Poland. I mean, Ukraine has taken it on the chin. It's not fair. It's not right. But certainly Poland is sparing no expense to make sure they have the equipment, the insurance policies, the procedures in hand to ensure that Russia is not able to menace them. And a nuclear weapon would be the ultimate element of that.
It takes more than money to acquire a nuclear weapon, as we both know. Now, Polish Prime Minister has announced mass military drills, in his idea for all men in Poland. Do we know anything more about this particular idea, and how much does it help to boost the security level of such a country as Poland?
Well, we certainly understand that environments that are under threat, if there is a civil defense, if there's policies, procedures, plans, understanding of what should happen, that this itself serves as a massive deterrent. Is it warranted? Is it absolutely necessary right now? Probably not. But you don't prepare for a crisis when it's weeks away. You prepare for a crisis when it's years or months away, to where the actions, the behaviors become routine, almost muscle memory. And the notion of a civil defense that's well organized, incredibly articulated, has done drills, exercises. People know who to call within the phone tree, where to report, who to evacuate. This is all stuff that gets done years ahead of time and is important. And frankly, I think it's the right thing for Poland. I think it's the right thing for Taiwan right now. I think it's the right thing for the Baltic states. Anybody that's facing a near border threat that doesn't have a civil defense plan, well organized, well executed, well planned out, the expectation that somehow society is going to be resilient in the day of assault is fantasy. I think it's smart on Poland, and I will stop here. I sense you're ready for the next question.
Oh, yes, I am. Now, Donald Tusk is talking about the Swiss model of military training. Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken, has been attacked for the last time in the 19th century. So could you tell us more about this Swiss model?
Well, it's famously known that the Swiss, every household in the country is armed. every sort of male member of the country is expected to serve. Again, this may not be like full-time active duty, but they're expected to have capacities, training, skills in place should the country ever be assaulted. They continue to have bunkers all throughout the mountains, which are prepared, equipped. They are not dormant at this point. These things are exercised, and if this society is ever attacked, they will absolutely harden up like the shell of a tortoise and resist at all costs. And frankly speaking, I think it does serve as a model for Poland and others right now. It's a good model to follow.
Now, Poland is considering withdrawing from the Ottawa and Dublin conventions. Now, those are about cluster munitions and landmines. Now, is this an absolute necessity for Poland now?
You know, I would say this. In the broad context, the United States has been calling on, and history demands, that Europeans stand up their own defense, and I think Poland is leading the way. Do we like the notion of cluster munitions? Absolutely not. But may they be necessary in the face of an aggressive force such as the one we've seen attack Ukraine? Absolutely. These deliberations have already happened and have been solved within Ukraine. The idea that Poland is just making themselves available to the same munitions, I think, is a rational position at this point. It could well be a posture. They have time to decide it. But if it's an already done deal, to me, that's not a crisis point. The decision was made earlier in Ukraine.
Right. Now, in your opinion, if a very solid peace agreement is reached in Ukraine, should Poland continue on its path of pumping, very large sums of money into its army?
Call me a skeptic, but what is a very solid peace agreement in the context of Russia, which violated the Budapest Accords, violated Minsk, violated other things? I don't want to over-demonize Russia, but they do have a track record. So the notion that somehow a peace agreement is signed and suddenly Europe goes back to its old norms, I think is a fantasy. I think Poland has led. I think Poland deserves a pole position place within the discussions and positions. If I were sort of the head of the U.S. and any declaration I did in Europe, I would guarantee Poland was at the table because it's leading by example, and at 4.7%, other nation states in Europe, as well as the EU, generally should follow. So no, I would not draw down at all if there's something on paper, because things in paper need to be observed over time to know if they're real.
Right. Now, lastly, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has resulted in Poland quickly modernizing its army, and it's already spending more than 4% of GDP on that purpose. Now, what areas should Poland invest into next? It has already bought many tanks. Poland has now modern jets. Now, what about the Navy? What about long-range missiles?
So if we look historically, to your point, Poland invested early, and I think this made a lot of sense. Where it's investing that capacity, as you've already described, certain arguments, aircraft are meaningful. For me personally, since I don't represent anybody, I don't think F-35 is the solution. If there's been some money spent there, great. I would prioritize lower cost mass. Artillery matters in this case. If Poland is not self-sufficient in manufacturing artillery, pour money into that, because we obviously see this is the one area where no matter how much money is being spent, Russia is outstripping the United States and Europe combined in terms of our artillery production 200 to 500%. This is an unsustainable position for us, and Poland again can lead the way in this space. Decidedly low tech is ways to spend money, and high tech are things like our drones, AI and drones. How we're going to autonomize munitions be delivered to targeted places where even the AI may ultimately make decision on final targeting.
Burgin, National Coordinator for the New Security Leaders Program at the Warsaw Security Forum, was a guest tonight. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to be on the show. Good night.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more news and features here on TVP World.